some more fascinating examples. I find this one to be just gorgeous and interesting. This is in a little tiny church in Spain in the last of the 600s and the beginning of the 700s, before the Islamic conquest, Visigothic Spain. So this is the Spain that exists from 400 to 700, so just 300 years. And during that 300 years, there are churches built they're Christian churches, but in the beginning they're Arian church. Then finally they agree to the Nicene Creed and join Rome. And here this capital in this church, little tiny church up in the north, here in this capital you can see the sculptor has sculpted this very flat rendition of Abraham and Isaac. Isn't that wonderful? And I love the beautiful symbolism of the hand, you see. This great, huge hand. Isn't that great, Jim? This wonderful hand reaches down and stops him. Now, we're going to see other versions of this, and this is still one of the best because this is the hand of God reaches down and intervenes and says, no. So just at exactly the right moment. And if you look at this, which is so simple and so wonderfully simple and abstract, with the flora and the fauna here over in the left corner and the right corner, and then you have the ram up there in the vine, and then you have poor little Isaac who's being seized by his hair. He must have said, Papa, you're hurting my hair. And there's Papa with his great big knife. It's so simple because you see, there's Abraham, there's Isaac, and there's the hand of God coming in. Now, every artist is going to have to figure out, how do you represent the intervention? See, how do you represent the divine intervention? Here's a beautiful medieval manuscript. It's bringing together various stories, and so over on the left, there's the crucifix. But over on the left, yes, the biggest sword you've ever seen. I mean, my God, this is so huge. Poor little Isaac looks like he's putting his hand to his face and saying, oh, dear Daddy, please look at it. Isn't it? Isn't that the biggest sword? And his little son is very small, isn't he? He's much older than that rendition, because we know that Isaac was way older than what that particular artist. This is beside Paris 1200, and then we have the crucifixion, and we have other stories in it. Now, one of the most famous to many of us here in this class renditions is the subject that the committee that was choosing the artist who would get the job to make the beautiful bronze gold-covered doors, the panels, in Florence in 1401. The two artists, of course, who competed were Brunelleschi and Ghiberti. Now, you're looking at the Brunelleschian offering. Both artists made a full panel in their studio. They cast the bronze and then they covered it with gold and polished it. So they produced the panel exactly the way it would look on the door. And then the committee went to work and had to decide who was going to win. Here are both of them on the wall. I put them together here in my photo. And then here I'll put them together with a black background. It's just a little bit easier to see them close up when I put them like that. Ghiberti on the right, Brunelleschi on the left. It's always fun to look at these together because the committee, imagine Florence, 1401, this committee, all different people, there were lawyers and doctors and merchants, the wool guild, they were the ones who were paying for it. All of them had to look at these two offerings, just exactly like this, and then choose. Now, in this one could say Brunelleschi on the left in a way imitates that wonderful Visigothic church, because that hand of God comes down just like that. In this, it's the angel of God. The angel comes down and grabs Abraham's arm. And if you compare the two, the Brunelleschian Abraham and Isaac is interesting and very, very different than the Ghiberti. In the Brunelleschian, you have Isaac almost hidden by Abraham's hand. You really don't feel him quite the same. And Abraham is just kind of pushing him down and holding him down with his hand. And the action is angel to Abraham. If you look at the Ghiberti on the right, it's the opposite. Here, it's Abraham and Isaac. It's all about Abraham and Isaac. It's Abraham looking at Isaac and Isaac looking at Abraham. And the other thing you may notice about it is Abraham is very cute in the Ghiberti panel. Did you notice? Very, very cute guy in great shape. He's been working out in 24-hour fitness. And so this is one of the first really beautiful, almost nude figures in Western art. And it caught the eye of the committee. I don't think there's any question that that's what won Ghiberti the prize, was his Isaac figure, who's very beautiful. And you see the little box? See the little box he's on? He borrowed that from Ravenna. That's where he got that idea. And Brunelleschi is doing the same thing. The Ghiberti one has a unity. If you take your eye and you move around it, it flows. Your eye just moves through the rocks and around Abraham, around Isaac, and down into the box, and then again. So it's beautifully unified. But it's a completely different psychological moment. In the Brunelleschi, in a sense, the Brunelleschi is sharper psychologically. It's more exciting dramatically because it's Abraham, angels grabbing his arm just at the instant, and Abraham has his hand on his son's face, whereas in the other one, it's prettier. Abraham is quite handsome himself, arm raised, but Isaac steals the show. Isaac steals the show, no question about it. So this was the competition 1401, Brunelleschi and Ghiberti won. And so Brunelleschi got mad and left Florence. He was furious. He knew he was the better sculptor, probably was, and left. And he and Donatello went to Rome and did years of research. Here's the Brunelleschian panel, a little bigger so you can see it better. And now, let's look at some other artists. This is one of the great stories, in the history of Western art. We have almost 2,000 years of versions of it. And what we've seen, early medieval, 700, then the Renaissance, we could look at 100. Almost every generation did a version of Abraham and Isaac. This is Titian. We just saw Ghiberti and Brunelleschi at 1400, so this is 1500. Titian, of course, has oil on canvas, so he has way more flexibility than working in bronze. And here's Titian's version of it. Oil is just starting around the year 1500. Titian was one of the great masters of oil. So here is his version of Abraham and Isaac. Again, in a sense, Isaac sort of steals the show because he's kind of showing us his buttocks. It's just sort of, right? I mean, it's sort of, you look at the painting and the first thing you see is little Isaac looking down at us, kneeling over and looking right down. Then Abraham in the middle, so it's strung out in a great diagonal. Abraham in the middle and the angel with the arm over the knife in a sort of an ambiguous, that's not as brilliant as the Brunelleschian one. The Brunelleschian is better because in the Brunelleschian, the angel is grabbing Abraham's arm. He's got his hand right on the arm, whereas Titian has kind of an angel kind of flying in and saying, well, don't do it, right? Here's another Venetian. Now, we saw the arm and everything. In this, he's changed the age and the nature of Abraham and the age and the nature of Isaac. He has them, like maybe 20 years apart. It looks like Abraham might be 40 and his son 21 or 2. Certainly Isaac is in great shape. These artists must have all been in fabulous shape because they're all painting people who look great. But the hand on the head, he may have known Titian's painting, and the angel, but the angel coming in, this is a very odd direction to be coming in, right in the middle of the painting and sort of hand going off to the right. So when you look at the painting, the first thing that happens is your eye goes all the way over to the end of the angel's right hand, which is taking you away from the action. So it's really not very good, but it's interesting. And an interesting comparison. Now, the next is the greatest Dutch artist of all time. That's not a hint, is it? You all know exactly who it is. This is Rembrandt. And Rembrandt is a very interesting one when you think back to what we've seen here, because in this case, he has certainly made Isaac the most important figure because he's put him right in front of us. We can't not look at him. And young and cream-colored skin, but with his father's hand right over his face, which is interesting, isn't it? I have no doubt that Rembrandt is borrowing from Brunelleschi, that he had seen a drawing of the Brunelleschian panel. He wouldn't have seen the actual panel because he never went to Florence, but he could have definitely seen a drawing. Somebody did a drawing, and he saw it in Amsterdam, because that's clearly taken right from Brunelleschi, putting that hand right over the face. And then Abraham is in the middle, and the angel is in the third position. So you have three centers of the painting. You have Isaac, Abraham, and angel. And angel comes in towards us in a spectacular demonstration of foreshortening on the part of Rembrandt. So he can show you the head and the hand. They're all coming right towards you. And in his version, the angel grabs the hand of Abraham. The angel grabs the hand. You know, you go back to the previous just for a second, and that is weak compared to the genius of Rembrandt. Three figures, all compact, all held in a great dramatic moment. The colors wisely, darks and beiges and whites. So that you have a series of whites, the white angel, the white face and beard, the white child, and then the cave way off there in the distance. And the knife falls. Now that bothers everybody, see. Everybody's worried of where that knife is going, see. It's going to fall. Oh my goodness. People always say when they see this, oh my goodness, the knife is going to fall on Isaac. A wonderful landscape way into the back. Look at that landscape. Way, way, way back there, which is a mark of Rembrandt's genius. Look at Isaac's knee. It's right in your face. The light on the knee. It just puts that knee right up. And look at the beautiful detail on the leg and the knee and the feet. Very detailed. But then your eye moves immediately from the shiny knee way back into the dark, dark, distant. Oh, what a great painting. I want to show you Caravaggio. Rembrandt and Caravaggio are, I would think, the two greatest painters in this story we were just seeing here, of painters. Brunelleschi and Ghiberti are fabulous sculptors. But here is Caravaggio's Sacrifice of Isaac. And how interesting, you know, with Rembrandt in our mind. Rembrandt creates this wonderful recession way, way, way back into the deep, deep. Here, it's all up front. All three of them, right up front, right in front of you. Angel, Abraham, Isaac, across the story. And the face of Isaac right in your face, right in your eyes, with dramatic shouting, this is terrible, what's happening to me? Twisting, grimace face. And then Abraham with his hand right on Isaac's face. And then the angel brought in so that he joins right in to them. He's not off in the top, up in the ceiling. He's not flying in the center like some of the other ones had, or from the right. But he's right there. He's one of the three. And he has his hand right on Abraham's arm. It's great, isn't it? It's really great because it's very high energy, high psychology, tight, shocking, brilliant, exciting art. Great background, beautiful landscape, hills going off into the distance, castle on the hilltop, steeples, mountain way far in the distance. Yeah, just a beautiful northern Italian foothills below the Alps, which of course is the world he's from. That's where Caravaggio's from. Here's another artist in the era of Caravaggio, that's 17th century, and this man's name is Cigoli, Cigoli. I mean, Isaac is just a little boy, and he's just kind of leaning there, and the angel is kind of flying by and saying, oh, what's going on here? Right? You know, oh, what's going on here? Gee, what am I supposed to do? God, was I supposed to do something here? And Abraham kind of looking off. Is the angel coming any minute? Right? No energy, no tension, nothing is tight and wound up like that. Nothing. It's just weak. And of course, that's exactly why I put it in there. I want you to see what a weak Abraham and Isaac could be. That's it. Chigoli. Here's a French painter, not an important one, but just another way of doing the three figures. Again, it's very poor. Abraham's in the middle. The angel is sort of flying by. You know, you feel like he's just kind of flying by. There's just too much space all around it. Your eye goes off into everything else, down the road, down the river, down the hill, across, up into, and Isaac is just sort of leaning back and waiting for the blow to come. It's so poor I don't even remember the name of the artist. Oh, how about this? This is a Spanish artist, and it's, again, we're still in the age of Caravaggio. That's beautiful, isn't it? The body of Isaac, the rocks, the cold darkness, the sheep, the ram, and then the angel. The odd thing, though, is the angel. The angel is an odd-looking character. It looks like a girlfriend. Doesn't it? It looks like Abraham's girlfriend has stopped by. Oh, what are you doing up there on the hill, Abe? And just kneeled down and said, oh, gee, I don't think you should do this. It doesn't look like an angel, but the figure of Isaac is spectacular. Here's another French painter. I think his last name was Rousseau, like the famous Jean-Jacques Rousseau, but it's not the same family. But here's another version, another poor one, but it's interesting. Isaac lays down on a bench. I didn't see that in the text, did you? Anybody? Isaac went and laid down on the bench. And then the angel comes roaring in around behind, and Abraham has his hand on the head. And finally, a great classicist in France. As you know, by the 18th century, there was a whole huge tradition of the French Academy in which artists studied in Rome, learned Greek and Roman art, Renaissance art, Michelangelo, Raphael. They studied in Rome sometimes for years and imitated both classical and Michelangelo and Raphael. And then they would return to Paris and paint very, very highly polished, detailed versions of historical stories, biblical stories. That was the popular stuff. Greek and Roman history, they were number one and number two because it was classicism. It was a classical tradition. So Greek and Roman history. Biblical history, if it sort of looked Greek or Roman, so this kind of does. And French history, that was okay if you were, particularly if it was Louis XIV or something. So here is a French classicist Ingres and his version of Abraham and Isaac. Isaac is black curly hair, and sitting there with his hands tied, and all of the action is angel and Abraham, which is interesting. Repeats some of the other artists. And very close to us, up close, no extraneous detail, clouds flying around in the back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the sun is going down, and our evening is over, and our visit to ancient Israel is over.